We've had kind of a tidal wave of misinformation about our democracy, about voting, and about the last election. Lies that were designed and spread by elected officials, even our former president, to manipulate and mislead their constituents. This misinformation, these lies, they have deep, lasting impacts on our democracy. And we saw some of those dangerous consequences play out in a violent insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th. The myth of voter fraud and the resulting push of restrictive legislative proposals is unacceptable. We should be doing work to solve actual problems instead of imposing policies that place deliberate barriers in place of people exercising their right to vote. I'm disappointed that here in Minnesota, we're one of 43 states trying to pass anti-voter legislation. These bills all across the country have the effect of disenfranchising voters, like Jim Crow laws of the past. Bills like this one primarily disenfranchise Black, Brown, Indigenous, New American voters, and the elderly, seniors, students, the disabled, and LGBTQ communities. They're powerful tools that work to keep communities from exercising their right to vote. The big lie about voter fraud is just that. It's a lie. And voter ID wouldn't solve for that. It would only solve for one type of voter fraud, and that is voter impersonation. There are 0 cases of that happening in Minnesota. It's not a thing that happens in this country. And voter ID would only solve for that issue. It's $8 million and more ongoing that would be spent on a bill that would have the effect of disenfranchising thousands in order to fix a problem that does not exist. We have very real work to do. And this bill is a partisan political use of our time that has no companion in the House, was not included in the omnibus state gov bill or the overall budget targets that the governor would surely veto. We should be working on solving real problems for Minnesotans. Teachers are getting laid off because we haven't passed school funding. We have a housing crisis in Minnesota. People can't afford their health care. There are very real problems we need to be solving for Minnesotans, and this is not one of them. I do want to address one note on the cost of it. The bill author referenced what he thinks is much too high of a number of Minnesotans who don't have an ID. But to be clear, the fiscal note only assumes that 10% of those in a midterm election and 20% of those in a federal or in the presidential election would actually get the ID. So that is, the cost is only 10 or 20% of that number. It's not that whole big number. And that's $8 million and more ongoing every year after that. We were sent here to do Minnesota's work, to solve real problems that we're facing every day. We should be doing that instead of this. I ask for a red vote.